Scripture portions of the day. Day 314.
John 21, OANT. After these things Yeshua showed himself to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he appeared thus. And there were together Simeon, Kepha, and Thomas, who is called the twin, and Nathanael, who was the Quanton of Galilee, and the son of Zebedee, and the two others of the disciples. Simeon and Kepha said to them, I am going to catch fish. They were saying to him, We are also coming with you. And they went out and embarked the ship, and that night they caught nothing. But when it was dawn, Yeshua stood on the side of the sea, and the disciples did not know that it was Yeshua. Yeshua said to them, Lads, do you have anything to eat? And they said to him, No. He said to them, Throw your net to the right side of the ship, and you will find. And they cast, and they could not haul in the net, for the multitude of fish that was caught. And the disciple of whom Yeshua had great affection said to Kepha, This is our Elo-heem. But Simeon, when he heard that he was our Elo-heem, he took his tunic, girding his loins, because he was naked, and he threw himself in the sea to come to Yeshua. But the other disciples came into the boat, for they were not very far from the land, but the 200 cubits, and they were dragging the net with fish. But when they came up to the land, they saw burning coals, which had been set, and fish were lying on them, and bread. And Yeshua said to them, Bring some of those fish that you have caught just now. And Simeon and Kepha came up and dragged the net to the land, and it was filled with 153 great fish. And with all this weight, the net was not ripped. And Yeshua said to them, Come, have breakfast. But none of the disciples dared ask him who he was, for they knew that he was our Elo-heem. But Yeshua came near and took the bread and the fish and gave to them. This was the third time Yeshua appeared to his disciples after he had risen from the tomb. After they had breakfast, Yeshua said to Simeon and Kepha, Simeon, Bar-Yonah, do you love me more than these things? And he said to him, Yes, my Elo-heem, you know that I love you. He said to him, Shepherd my lambs for me. He said to him again, the second time, Simeon Bar-Yonah, do you love me? And he said to him, Yes, my Elo-heem, you know that I love you. Yeshua said to him, Shepherd my sheep for me. And he said a third time, Simeon Bar-Yonah, do you love me? And Kepha was saddened that he said to him a third time, Do you love me? And he said to him, My Elo-heem, you discern everything. You know that I love you. Yeshua said to him, Shepherd my ewes for me. Amen, I tell you that when you were young, you were girded your loins, and you were walking where you wanted. But when you are old, you shall reach out your hands, and others will gird your loins for you, and shall escort you to where you do not want. But he said this to show them by death he was going to glorify Jehovah. And after he had these things, he said to him, Come after me. And Simeon and Kepha turned around and saw the disciple whom Yeshua had loved, who had come after him, who had lain at supper on the breast of Yeshua, and said, My Elo-heem, who is he that shall betray you? When Kepha saw this one, he said to Yeshua, And what of this man, my Elo-heem? Yeshua said to him, If I want this one to remain until I come to you, what is it to you? You come after me. And this saying went forth amongst the brethren, that this disciple could not die. But Yeshua had not said that he would not die, but, If I want this one to remain until I come to you, what is it to you? It is the disciple who testified about all these things, and he wrote them, and we know that his testimony is true. There are also many other things that Yeshua did which are written in each one. I suppose the world would not be insufficient for the books that would be written. Revelations 20. OANT. And I saw another angel from heaven who had with him the key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. And he seized the dragon, an ancient serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the abyss, and shut and sealed the top, so that he would not again seduce all the nations. After these things it was granted a release for a little season. I saw seats, and they sat upon them. The judgment was given them, and these souls were cut off for the testimony of Yeshua and the word of Jehovah. And because they did not worship the beast, neither its image, nor receive a mark between their eyes, or on their hands, they lived and reigned with the Messiah for 1,000 years. And this is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he Whoever has part in the first resurrection and the second death has no authority over these, but they shall be priests of Jehovah and the Messiah, and they shall reign with him 1,000 years. And whenever 1,000 years are finished, Satan will be released from his imprisonment. And he will go forth to seduce all the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them to war, those whose number is the sand of the sea. And they went to war upon the open place in the earth, and surrounded the city of the camp of the holy people and of the beloved city. The fire descended from heaven from Jehovah and consumed them. Their seducer, the devil, was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. And they shall be tormented day and night for the eternity of eternities. And I saw a great white throne, and him sitting on top of it, from whose face earth, heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, who stood before the throne. Scrolls were opened, and another scroll was opened, which is the judgment, and the dead were judged for those things that were written in the scrolls according to their works. And the sea yielded up the dead that were in it, and death and Sheol yielded the dead which were with them. And they judged one by one according to their works. And death and Sheol were cast in the lake of fire, which is the second death. And whoever was not found inscribed in the book of life was cast in the lake of fire. Deuteronomy 20, Septuagint. And if thou shouldest go forth to war against thine enemies, and shouldest see horse and rider and people numerous than themselves, and thou shalt not be afraid of them, for Jehovah thy Elohim is with thee, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And it shall come to pass, whenever you shall draw nigh to battle, that the priest shall draw nigh, and speak to the people, and shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, you are going this day to battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint, fear not, neither be confounded, neither turn aside from their face. For it is Jehovah thy Elohim who advances with you, to fight with you against your enemies, and to save you. And the scribe shall speak to the people, saying, What man is he that has built a new house, and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the war, and then the other man dedicate it. Or what man is he that has planted a vineyard, and not been made merry with it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, another man be made merry with it. And what man is he that has been betrothed to a wife, and has not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her. And the scribe shall speak further to the people, and say, What man is he that fears and is cowardly in his heart? Let him go and return to his house, lest he make the heart of his brother fail as his own. It shall come to pass, when the scribe shall have ceased speaking to the people, that they shall appoint generals of the armies to be leaders of the people. And if they shall draw nigh to the city to overcome them by war, then call them out peaceably. If then they should answer peaceably to them, and open to thee, it shall be that all the people found in it be tributary and subject to thee. But if they will not hearken to thee, but wage war against thee, thou shalt invest it, until Jehovah thy Elohim shall deliver it in thy hands, and thou shalt smite every male with it in the edge of the sword, except the women and the stuff and all the cattle, whosoever shall be in the city, and all the plunder you should take spoil for thyself, and shall eat all the plunder of thine enemies from Jehovah thy Elohim gives thee. Thus shalt thou do all the cities that are far off from thee, not being of the cities of the nations which Jehovah thy Elohim gives thee to inherit their land. Of these ye shall not take any alive, but ye shall surely cause them, the Chetite, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Perizzite, and the Evite, and the Jebusite, and the Girgasite, as Jehovah thy Elohim commanded thee, that they may not teach you to do all their abominations which they did to their gods, so they would sin before Jehovah your Elohim. And thou shouldest besiege a city many days to prevail against it by war to take it. Thou shalt not destroy its trees by applying an iron tool to them, but thou shalt eat of it, and shalt not cut it down. Is a tree that is in the field of man to enter before thee into the work of the siege? But the tree which thou knowest to be not fruit-bearing, this thou shalt destroy and cut down. Thou shalt construct a mount against the city, and make war against it, until it be delivered up. Daniel 4, Septuagint. King Nebuchadnezzar, to all nations, tribes, and tongues, who dwell on the earth, peace be multiplied to you. It seemed good to me to declare to you the signs and wonders which the Most High Elohim has wrought with me. How great and mighty they are! His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his power to all generations. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was thriving in my house and prospering. I saw a vision, and it terrified me, and I was troubled on my bed. And the visions my head troubled me. And I made a decree to bring in before me all the wise men of Babylon, that they might make known to me the interpretation of the dream. So the enchanters, magicians, soothsayers, and Chaldeans came in, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known to me the interpretation thereof. Until Daniel came, whose name was Belshazzar, according to the name of my Elohim, who has within him the Holy Spirit of Elohim, to whom I said, O Belshazzar, chief of the enchanters, of whom I know that the Spirit of Elohim is in thee, and no mystery is too hard for thee. Hear the vision of my dream which I had, and tell me the interpretation of it. I had a vision upon my bed, and behold a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew large, strong, its heights reached the sky, and extent to the extremities of the whole earth. Its leaves were fair, its fruit abundant, and it was the meat for all, and under it the wild beasts in the field took shelter, and the birds of the sky lodged in the branches of it, and all flesh was fled it. I beheld in the night vision upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven, and cried aloud, and thus said, Cut down the tree, and pluck its branches, shake off its leaves, and scatter its fruits. Let the wild beasts be removed from under it, and the birds from its branches. Only leave this stump of its roots in the earth, and bind it with an iron and brass band, and it shall lie in the grass that is without, and in the dew heavens, and its portion shall be with the wild beasts and the grass of the field. And his heart shall be changed, that of a man, and the heart of the wild beast shall be given to him, and 7 times shall pass over him. The matter is by the decree of the watcher, and the demand is the word of the holy ones, that the living may know that Jehovah is most high over the kingdom of men, and he will give it to whomever he pleases, and it shall be set up over it that which is set at naught of men. This is the vision I, King Nebuchadnezzar, saw, and do thou, Belshazzar, declare the interpretation, for none of the wise men of the kingdom are able to show me the interpretation of it, but thou, Daniel, art able, for the Holy Spirit of Elohim is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was amazed about 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. And Belshazzar answered and said, My Lord, let the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation of it to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, that grew large and strong, whose height reached to the sky and extent to all the earth, and whose leaves were flourishing, and its fruit abundant, and it shall be meat for all under the wild beasts lodged, and the birds of the sky took shelter in its branches, is thyself, O king, for thou art grown great and powerful, and thy greatness has increased and reached to the heaven, and thy dominion to the ends of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one come down from heaven, and he said, Strip the tree and destroy it, only leave the stump and its roots in the ground, and bind it with band of iron and brass, and it shall lie in the grass, that is, without, and in the dew of heaven, and its portion shall be with the wild beasts, until 7 times have passed over it. This is the interpretation of it, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king. And they shall drive thee forth from men, and the dwelling shall be in the wild beasts, and they shall feed thee with grass as an ox. And thou shalt have thy lodging under the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until you know that the Most High is Elohim, Jehovah, of the kingdom of men, and will give it to whom he shall please. And whereas they said, Leave the stumps of the roots of the tree, thy kingdom abides sure to thee for the time that thou shalt know the power of heavens. Therefore, O king, let thy counsel please thee, and atone for thy sins by alms, and thy iniquities by compassion on the poor. It may be Elohim will be long-suffering to thy trespasses. All these things came upon Nebuchadnezzar, and after 12 months he walked in his palace in Babylon. The king answered and said, Is it not this great Babylon which I have built for a royal residence, by the might of my power and the honor of my glory? While the word was yet in the king's mouth, there came a voice from heaven saying to thee, King Nebuchadnezzar, they say, the kingdom has departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwell shall be in the wild beasts of the field, and they shall feed thee with grass as an ox, 7 times shall pass thee over, until you know that the Most High is Elohim, and the kingdom of men, and he will give it to whomever he please. In the same hour the word was fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven forth from men, and he ate grass of the ox, and his body was bathed in the dew of heaven, until his hair was grown like lion's hair, and his nails were bird claws. At the end of that time I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me. I blessed the Most High, and praised him that lives for ever, and gave him glory, for his dominion is everlasting dominion, and his kingdom lasts for all generations. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he does according to his will in the army of heaven, and among the inhabitants of the earth, and there is none that shall withstand his power, and say to him, What hast thou done? At the same time my reason returned to me, and I came to my honor to my kingdom, and my natural form returned to me, and my princes and my nobles sought me, and I was established in my kingdom. More abundant majesty was added to me. Now therefore I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and greatly exalt and glorify the King of heaven, for this is all his works are true, and his paths are judgment, and all the walk in pride he shall be abased. Proverbs 16, Septuagint. All the works of the humble man are manifested with the Elohim, but the ungodly shall perish in the evil day. Everyone that is proud in heart is unclean before Elohim, and he that is unjustly strikes hands with hands shall not be held guiltless. The beginning of a good way is to do justly, and it is more acceptable with Elohim than other sacrifices. He that seeks Jehovah shall find knowledge with righteousness, and they that rightly seek him shall find peace. All of the works of Jehovah are done with righteousness, and the ungodly man is kept from the evil day. There is an oracle upon the lips of a king, and his mouth shall not err in judgment. The poise of the balance is righteousness with Jehovah, and his works are righteous measures. An evildoer is an abomination to a king, for the throne of rule is established by righteousness. Righteous lips are acceptable to a king, and he loves right words. The anger of the king is measure of death, but the wise man will pacify him. The son of the king is in the light of life, and they that are in favor with him are of a cloud of later rain. The brood of wisdom is more to be chosen than gold, and the brood of prudence more than to be chosen than silver. The paths of life turn aside from evil, and the ways of righteousness are the length of life. He that receives instruction shall be in prosperity, and he that regards reproof shall be made wise. He that keeps his ways preserves his own soul, and he that loves his life will spare his mouth. Pride goes before destruction, and a folly before a fall. Better is a meek-spirited man with lowliness than one who divides spoil with the proud. He who is skillful in business finds good, but he that trusts in Elohim is most blessed. Men call the wise and understanding evil, but they are pleasing in the speech and shall hear more. Understanding is a fountain of life to its possessors, but the instructions of fools is evil. The heart of the wise will discern the things which proceed from his own mouth, and on his lips he will wear knowledge. Good words are honeycombs, and the sweetness thereof is the healing of the soul. There are ways that seem right to a man, but in the end of them looks to the depth of hell. A man who labors for himself, and divides and drives him on his own ruin. But the perverse bears destruction upon his own mouth. A foolish man digs up evil for himself, and treasures fire from his own lips. A perverse man spreads mischief, and will kindle a torch deceit with mischiefs, and he shall separate friends. The transgressor tries to ensnare friends, and leads them in ways that are not good. And the man that fixes his eyes devises perverse things, and marks out of his lips are all evil. He is a furnace of the wickedness. Old age is a crown of honor, but it is found in the ways of righteousness. A man slow to anger is better than a strong man, and he that governs his temper better than he that takes a city. All evils come upon an ungodly in their bosoms, but all righteousness comes from Jehovah. Proverbs 17, Septuagint. Better is a morsel with pleasure and peace than a house full of many good things, and unjust sacrifices with strife. A wise servant shall rule over foolish masters, and shall divide portions amongst brethren. As silver and gold are tried in the furnace, so are choice hearts with Jehovah. A bad man hearkens to the tongue of transgressors, but the righteous man attends not to false lips. He that laughs at the poor provokes him that made him, and he that rejoices at the destruction of another shall be held guiltless. But he that has compassion shall find mercy. Children's children are the crown of old men, and their fathers are the glory of children. The faithful has the whole world full of wealth, but the faithless not even a farthing. Faithful lips will not suit a fool, nor lying lips a just man. Instructions is to them that use it a gracious reward, and whithersoever it may turn, it shall prosper. He that conceals injury seeks love, but he that hates to hide separates friends and kindred. A threat breaks down the heart of the wise man, but a fool through a scourge understands not. Every bad man stirs up strife, but Jehovah will send out against him an unmerciful messenger. Care may befall a man of understanding, but fools will meditate. Whoso rewards evil for good, evil shall not be removed from his house. Rightful rule gives power to words, but sedition and strife precedes poverty. He that pronounces the unjust just, and the just unjust, is unclean and abominable with Elo-heem. Why has the fool wealth? For the senseless man will not be able to purchase wisdom. He that exalts his own house seeks ruin, and he that turns aside from instruction shall fall into mischief. Have thou a friend for every time. Let brethren be useful in distress, and for on this account they are. A foolish man applauds and rejoices over himself, as he also that becomes surety would make himself responsible for his own friends. A lover of sin rejoices and strives, and the hard-hearted man comes not in for good. A man of a changeful tongue will fall into mischief, and the heart of a fool is grief to its possessor. A father rejoices not over an uninstructed son, but a wise son gladdens his mother. A glad heart promotes health, but the bones of a sorrowful man dry up. The ways of man who unjustly receives gifts in his bosom do not prosper, and an ungodly man perverts the ways of righteousness. The countenance of wise men is sensible, but the eyes of a fool goes to the ends of the earth. A foolish son is the cause of anger to his father, and grief to her that bore him. It is not right to punish a righteous man, nor is it holy to plot against righteous princes. He that forbears to utter hard word is discreet, and a patient man is wise. Wisdom shall be imputed to the fool who asks after wisdom, and he who holds his peace shall seem to be sensible.